So today we're going to be taking the communism test on idrlabs.com. And Mike actually took the test while I haven't, so he'll tell you a little bit about it.
Basically, it's a political test, but it gives you, political stance questions like any other political ideology quiz, but everything is geared toward how communist you are, and your answers will determine, out of 100%, how communist this quiz thinks you are.
And if you've listened to the podcast before, or you know Mike or me at all, you'd know that we wouldn't score very high on this test. However, the fun part is we're going to be taking this test as Bernie Sanders today.
When I took it as myself, I got 0%.
Yay! Okay, so we don't need to read the description because he basically told you what it was. So the first question, religion clouds the judgment of the masses and prevents them from seeing reality clearly. So if we're answering as Bernie Sanders, the self-hating Jew, I would say that he's probably going to be close to agree, maybe not like all the way 100%. You agree? Or you think he...
I think we should do absolutes. So I say agree.
Okay.
100%.
So there's no
middle ground.
Unless it's something he specifically stated as a middle ground type answer. Okay, because I want to be fair to Bernie Sanders, who I just called a self-hating Jew. Okay. Where's the next question?
You have to hit next.
Thank you. That makes sense. Okay, the state should ensure that all citizens have universal basic income decoupled from labor performance. So that would be an agree again. Next. A one-party system would get rid of a lot of the nonsense in politics and lead to better decisions overall.
This land is our land.
It's not looking good for Bernie, or he'd say it's looking great. Looking bad for the millionaires.
Billionaires
or no, it's
now.
Billionaires, because he's a millionaire. Alright, the internal contradictions of capitalism are so great that the free market will eventually collapse. Ugh. It hurts me to even say these things. The worth of a commodity should be determined by the amount of labor required to produce it.
Completely debunked labor theory of economics. So agree.
Terrible. This is hurting me. The state should control all aspects of economic production, which he's basically...
He has said that more recently than you would think.
Like the past few weeks.
Electricity?
I like how there's a Sanders ad down here.
The electric grid, I think, was his latest thing he wants nationalized.
Yeah, that was awful. All credit and loans should be centralized in one national bank controlled by the state. He has said that about banks. Oh my gosh. Bernie. I feel like I'm quoting... Do you remember that episode of The Office where Dwight got the concussion running into the pole, and then he puked on the back of his own car, and he's like, Dwight! That's what it felt like. Bernie! Alright, people will not work hard in countries where they cannot get rich from their work. So he would disagree quite fully with that. Didn't he get kicked out of a hippie commune for not working?
He wanted to keep talking.
Yeah, it's true. He's got priorities, and working ain't one. So capitalism is a precondition for freedom to flourish.
I agree, but Bernie is not.
Sorry, I got distracted because you're getting notifications downstairs or wherever you left your phone. Artists should have no private ownership or copyright over the works they create.
I was confused on this. I said agree, but I can't. I don't know what Bernie would say on this. Maybe this one.
Should we just leave neutral?
Yeah, maybe this one will leave neutral.
That one, he'd probably say yes, because, I mean, if But I wouldn't want to just guess at it, so you're right. We'll just skip it. Alright. The unequal power relations between business owners and workers are inherently exploitative. He would say yes.
Yep.
The state should be responsible for providing all citizens with basic necessities, including food, housing, medical care, and education.
Whether they want it or not.
So far, he's not said food, but the rest of it he's actually said, right? There should be no such thing as private ownership of land. Yeah. I like how Mike just nods. We're still in like podcast land here, so you're behind the camera. You have to say things, bro. All right. There should be no such thing as private ownership of business. If you're saying that about the power grid, I think we can assume that this would also be agreed. Poverty, disease, and early death are endemic to capitalism.
Agree.
That's so sad to me. The state should ensure an even-handed distribution of the population across the nation's territory.
Like Albania.
Just sprinkle us? Do you think he'd really? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about this one
we
because
could just leave.
There's a deeply inconsistent view of this among communists.
Yeah, I don't.
So, again, I'm gonna probably need to leave that neutral.
I would think so too. All means of communication should be centralized in the hands of the state. So if you were Bernie, would you want the state to run Facebook?
Oh, yeah.
That's hilarious.
Especially if you're the state. Then
true.
It's Bernie book.
Bernie book? That's my nightmare. Imagine what would happen to memes. It'd be terrible. Except for that one meme where he's like, once again, I'm asking for your support.
Unless somebody got in his ear and said they're making fun of him.
That's true. Okay. There should be 100% tax on all inheritance.
Yeah, I think we're been there, done that.
Gosh. It makes me sick. Shouldn't even exist. Many members of the working class who vote right-wing live in a kind of false consciousness where they do not understand their own interests. Really, I mean, he's an elitist who thinks that he knows better for all of us than we know for ourselves. So
internalized classicism.
Oh my gosh. So the working classes across the world have more in common with each other than they do with the non-working classes of their own countries.
Trotsky.
Trotsky.
Less Stalin, more Trotsky.
Class is not a sufficiently homogeneous entity to form the basis of serious societal analysis.
Oh, but then he'd have to rethink everything. Disagree.
An individual's best interests are indistinguishable from society's best interests. He would say that, oh my gosh, this is just so gross.
By default, since an individual has no valid interests.
Slacking is part of human nature and will only increase in societies where there is no promise of financial gain.
The guy who's never had a real job says slacking. What's that?
And we're almost done. The absence of a free market economy will inevitably lead to the suppression of individual rights. He said openly on debates recently that he wants everything but the authoritarian part. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so here we go.
Ooh,
94%.
So, do you want me to read this part?
Yes.
Your personal agreement with communism is high, indicating that you support most of communism's principles and doctrines as identified by classical Marxian literature. Would you just say Marxist?
I would.
Yeah, that's stupid.
I think that maybe Marxian throws in things that are classically associated, like Engels and guys following up directly
It just
after.
makes me want there to be a Marvin the Marxian. Alright, so you must likely support the abolition of private property, including private businesses, private ownership of land, and individual rights to the possession of immaterial property, patents, and works of art. Instead, you prefer collectivized control of the economy and the means of production. Most likely, your ideal society is marked by a high degree of economic equality. Let's put that in quotes, shall we? And the absence of social classes. Oh, I think they're pretty clear. There's an elite, and then there's
but it's
the
a
rest
political
of us.
class, not a social class, right?
Most likely, you also view capitalism as a major cause of human suffering, war, and possibly the environmental problems. Definitely in his view.
Yes.
Yeah. So, there you go. In case you didn't already know this, Bernie is a commie. Have a good one, everybody.